It was Halloween 2010 near Columbus, Ohio. The liske-griffin family was supposed to be having a fun and family-oriented weekend because William B.J. Liske was coming to visit. Instead, this Halloween was going to be like a Halloween prank in the form of a haunted house. But this was no prank. This was a real-life horror scene. I'm the LoudLilDucky, and this is Migrating True Crime in the U.S. Let's get to it. So the day started with Devin Griffin, 16, where he was supposed to stop by his mom's house to change his clothes to go to church and sing in the choir. See, he had been with his dad earlier this weekend. While he was there around 9:30 a.m., he saw his brother or stepbrother, William Liske, also known as B.J. Liske, which is how we will refer to him in this story. B.J. Liske is Devin's 24-year-old stepbrother. Devin came home from church and went straight upstairs at his mom's and started playing video games like any other Sunday after being at his dad's. By 1:30, Devin started thinking the house was too quiet. He thought it was weird because he hadn't heard anyone up and about yet. So Devin goes downstairs. No one was in the living room or the kitchen. So then he goes to check the master bedroom, where his mom, Susan Liske, 46, and stepdad, William Liske, 53, sleep. He noticed they were still in bed. He still thinks it's odd. He decides to go wake up his mom. As he gets near the bed, he notices the comforter is over their heads. Devin decides to call out, "Mom!" She doesn't respond, so he touched her foot, peeking out of the covers, calling out again. He says, "Mom!" one more time while pulling the covers back. Devin sees blood all over his mom's pillow. He thinks for a quick second, is this a Halloween prank? But then quickly realizes it's no prank at all. And his mom, Susan Liske, is lying there dead. Then notices his stepdad, William Liske, is lying there next to her, dead as well. Devin, obviously freaked out after seeing this traumatic scene, calls his aunt. His aunt calls 911 and rushes over to the liske-griffin house to be with Devin. Police arrived to this very rural area in Martin, Ohio, to the house that sits on about 100 acres. So not really any neighbors or people nearby. Police go into the master bedroom where Susan and William laid, dead in their bed. Police noticed that William was shot 5 times in the head and face at close range from like 1 to 2 feet. They think he was shot first and woke Susan up. The police could tell Susan had been moved. After both were killed, the murderer placed Susan's body into the bed and had pulled the covers over them. So we have the parents accounted for. BJ didn't really live there, but Devin has an older brother named Derek. Where was he? Police go up to Derek's room and the door is locked. They knocked, but there was no response. After hearing nothing, police kicked in the door to Derek's room, and there they find Derek Griffin, 23, curled up in the fetal position on his bed facing the wall, dead. He had suffered blunt force trauma, killing him within minutes of the first hit. Now I wanted to put a picture of it in here, but the picture of him, even with it blurred, is still very graphic, so I did not insert that particular one. Later, while searching the house, they found a claw hammer that matches the wounds on Derek's injuries, which most of us think of a claw hammer as just a regular, everyday hammer. They also found guns, but none matched the ones used in the murder, which is a small caliber .22 rifle. Police also followed some muddy footprints to a dock near a pond, thinking maybe the killer discarded the weapon and escaped this way. The pond was later drained and searched, but nothing was found, and they noticed there was no forced entry or robbery. No shell cases were at the scene. This killer had plenty of time to cover their tracks. Now, where is BJ? He was seen earlier, and Devin told the police that BJ was asking a lot of questions, but Devin had just brushed it off. He also stated that he did look a lot happier and more giddy than normal. Signs were pointing to BJ, and they needed to find him. One of the reasons they honed in on BJ was he was known to have a very troubled past and was involved in domestic incidents. If we go back to 2001, William Liske and Susan Griffin married, or Susan Morris. BJ hated all of it and lashed out. In 2002, William had to call the police on 16-year-old BJ at the time, who was threatening self-harm. When the officers arrived, BJ attacked them. This ended with him facing charges in juvenile court. BJ at this time was also already on house arrest. In 2004, BJ hit his stepmom, Susan, in the chest, 2 months after he was charged with felony assault and robbery. He had hit Susan once again, but with the coffee cup and stealing her car keys. BJ was indicted, but ultimately found incompetent to stand trial, and they dropped the charges. When BJ turned 18, he attacked Susan while she was showering. This is when BJ's dad, William, and Susan were like, enough. They kicked him out of the house. BJ went into a Sandusky group home for mental health patients, and William was appointed legal guardian of BJ. In 2006, even though BJ was 18, BJ was competent but not mentally well. He was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, the bipolar type. BJ's dad wanted to protect him and get him the help that he needed. His dad would also go and visit him in the group home, but it never really went well. Even with all the issues his son had and the tension between his son and William's wife, he never stopped trying, caring, or loving BJ. This was his son. And even though he's not right, he still loves him unconditionally. Some may not think he deserves that, but William did. Okay, so back to the present of this case. Police found out that some people did hear what sounded like gunshots around 6:30 a.m., meaning that when Devin came home to change his clothes for church, the murders had already taken place. Police later learned that BJ and his dad went on a little hunting vacation at a cabin that they had in Carroll County. William had even taken off time from work for this little vacation. The two were going to have a little one-on-one quality time. After they got back from this trip that actually went well, they decided to go to a friend's house. Everything was seemingly good then as well. So when they finally get back to the William Liske house, William allowed BJ to stay the night, something that was usually never allowed. But it was late. There had been drinking. This week was great and everything had been good. But was it too good to be true? This sadly would end up being a grave mistake. Once William let his guard down with his son is when BJ decided to act. Police found out due to some security footage that after Devin left for church, BJ took the family's Ford F-150 to Subway to buy a sandwich. then headed back to the hunting cabin that his dad and him were at previously for their little vacation. Police go to the cabin, which is about 170 miles away, and find BJ hiding out, the sandwich uneaten. BJ was arrested and charged. The blood on BJ's clothes were tested, and the DNA matched to all 3 victims. BJ's mom asked him about the crime on the jailhouse phone call. She asked, "How could you do this?" BJ said he wasn't in his right mind. There was no reason why he did it. Then, all of a sudden, he tells his mom, "I can't talk about this anymore." After that last call with his mom, BJ changed his plea to guilty. In March 2011, the 25-year-old was evaluated with multiple places for competency to stand trial for the murders of his father, his stepmom, and his stepbrother. He could have actually faced the death penalty, but because he pled guilty, BJ was given a life sentence without parole. Now, I'm not sure if it was just one life sentence or if he had gotten a life sentence for each of the 3 victims. Liske did state not a day goes by that he doesn't feel horrible for what he did. March 31st, 2015, 29-year-old BJ Liske did end up taking his own life in prison. His attorneys who represented him in court said he wasn't shocked, stating he was obviously a disturbed human being. Facing life without parole wasn't a surprise to him. The psychologist evaluations for the court showed his mental illnesses. The attorney also stated he may have been better suited in a mental health facility rather than a prison. This case is so sad and tragic. BJ was loved and struggled with mental health. It's not an excuse, but his family tried to love and support him, and it just didn't matter because he was so incredibly broken. William was an amazing father, and a lot of parents would have given up on their kid and shut their kid out, kicking them out. And BJ was awful to his stepmom. I really don't know the relationship with his stepbrother in all of this, and no one really even knows why Devin remained alive, why he didn't take Devin's life as well. And Devin, while he is still alive, and he seems to be like the only living one out of the family, he's a victim in all of this as well. Devin, from what I could find, did marry his high school sweetheart, who his mom, Susan, did actually get to meet before this incident, like a year in advance. And him and his wife do at least have one child. And I know that he will never fully recover from this. I mean, how could you, at seeing that at 16 years old? You're still a child. And everything is taken from you in an instant. But I hope that he is doing incredibly well, and his family that he has created, and we just wish the best for him. And we always need to remember the victims. Susan Liske, she was born on January 30th, 1964, dying on that tragic Halloween of 2010. She was a daughter of Benny and Edna Snyder Morris. Susan was a 1982 graduate of Oak Harbor High School. She received an associate's degree from Terra Community College. She had married Gary A. Griffin, who she had the 2 boys with, Devin and Derek, and later married William Liske in 2001. She was the office manager for Northwest Ohio Carpenters Joint Apprentice and Training Committee. She had previously was employed by Waste Management, Bergman Paving, and Superior Pushrod. Susan was a member of the St. John Evangelical Lutheran Church, Oak Harbor, and enjoyed hunting and camping, gardening. She had a big heart and was a loving mother, aunt, and friend. So we remember Susan Liske in this tragedy. William E. Billy Liske Jr., born May 11, 1957, in Toledo, Ohio. Also dying that fateful October 31, 2010. He was the son of William E. and Shirley Pfeiffer Liske, Sr. He was married to Susan M. Morris in 2001. Billy was a United States Air Force veteran. He worked as a front-end loader for Waste Management. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, gardening, and being in the outdoors. So you can see why him and Susan matched really well. They had the same interests. He was a loving husband and father. And the land he lived on, that 100 acres, was his personal heaven. Lastly, but certainly not least, who is just as important, Derek L. Griffin, who was only 23 years old, of Martin, Ohio, dying Halloween 2010 at his home. He was born on July 30th, 1987, the son of Gary and Susan M. Morris Griffin Liske. Derek was a 2005 graduate of Oak Harbor High School, where he was active in track, setting a school record for the 4x2 relay in 2005. He was a second-degree black belt and fought in Italy for the U.S. Taekwondo team. That's pretty cool. He was a member of St. John Evangelical Lutheran Church, Oak Harbor. Derek's favorite pastime was spending time on Lake Erie in his sailboat and his father's inflatable dinghy. He loved to sneak it away in the early morning hours while the water was calm. So he really loved being out on that water, even looking at rainbows. It was his serenity. So that is the story of the Halloween murders of the Liske-Griffin family. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of Migrating True Crime in the U.S. I'm the LoudLilDucky, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.